Thank you so much for joining us today. Just a couple rules for the webinar. If you have any questions throughout, please feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen or the chat function, and we will answer all questions at the end of the webinar. Here you can meet our presenters, myself and Stefano, primarily Stefano, as he is the more technical one.
Hey, everyone.
And I can just run through the agenda very quickly. We did a Halloween theme, given that tomorrow is Halloween, so we're one day early. Well, depending where you live, I guess. But thank you very much for attending our webinar. We're going to go through the top 5 network nightmares, meaning that the biggest problems that network engineers and IT personnel face, and then talk about some remedies and best practices to try to end the nightmares. And then a live discussion and Q&A. If you have any questions, we will answer all of them. And that's pretty much it. I'll pass it over to you, Stefano. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess, and hi, everyone. As I just said, we thought about creating this webinar to present one of the most, the biggest nightmares for at least network engineers. And we want to give you our take for the top 5. At least those are issues and problems that, of course, we aim to solve and that periodically and frequently come up during discussion with our users. So let's get started with the nightmare number 1, ghosted VoIP calls. How many work on a ticket where you have to troubleshoot a user struggling to have a voice call or a conference with someone on the other side that cannot hear very well. Generally, like there is a one-way conversation. You may hear very metallic or weird sounds. It feels like almost the line is haunted by some ghosts in the telephone in the line. And that's definitely VoIP performance issues, a very common problem that the network engineers and network administrators in general have to troubleshoot. And we want to show you as a remedy what NetBees provides to really deal with this nightmare. And so as a remedy, NetBees provides VoIP performance monitoring. And the way it works is that NetBees can run continuous testing on from multiple points in your network where the users are located. So you can rely on dedicated appliances that you deploy on office locations or cloud environments, or even endpoint that run on the end user laptops. And these agents run continuous checks and diagnostics against the most common VoIP services. And by doing so, also can understand how good or bad is the network performance to deliver voice over IP call quality. You can see this is the screenshot, and then I'll show you briefly on the dashboard how that looks of a call that had a little, I would say, a couple of problems in terms of MOS. As you can see here, the mini opinion score is a KPI or a quality index of VoIP calls, and it goes from 1 to 5. So generally, if you see anything below 3.7, you're having some problem hearing the other person well, or maybe it's a sudden drop, like in this case. There was clearly latency, a spike in latency, and a packet loss. But definitely that can definitely hear a bleep when you're doing a conversation. So let me show you in NetBees how that looks like. I'll share briefly the dashboard. There you go. Okay. And as you can see, this is the NetBees dashboard. I'm going to, in the remote worker agents, we have 2 sections. The network agents are the standalone appliances that I mentioned, and the remote workers are the endpoint that run on the user laptops or desktop. So I'm checking now the laptop by Jess. You can see here the tests are running pretty good. Thankfully, because we're running a webinar, I want to make sure we have good call quality and Zoom quality. And you can see here in this case, we have Microsoft Teams, a test to Microsoft Teams. And then this is the latency and packet loss, which is not present right now. And on top of that, I can also overlay the jitter and MOS. And you can see there was a packet loss that caused temporarily the mean opinion score to drop and then settle back to 4.3, which is a very good value. So this is an example of a remedy to deal with this problem with the ghosted haunted calls. All right, done with the first one. Let's go on nightmare number 2. And I'm not sure how many of you experienced this, but I suspect many of you, at least myself personally. Typically, network engineers perform configuration changes, upgrades, and so on during off hours, and most of the business are closed during off hours. And what happens is that you push the change, you do all your testing, verification. Maybe you clearly did the same in the lab before doing the actual change, and then you go to bed and you hope that to the next day, the day after, you don't wake up with tickets and your manager calling you that you caused an outage because you didn't think about maybe one line in a routing policy change, for instance, that had terrible impact and you cause a network outage. So definitely network configuration changes is one of those nightmares that keep network engineers up at night. But of course, clearly NetBees also has a remedy for that. And actually is one of the reasons also why NetBees started as a configuration change validation tool. So how does it do that? NetBees allows you to run a synthetic test end-to-end from multiple sources, which are the agents that I already talked about. The typical test that you can use for this case to verify end-to-end reachability, latency, or any change in performance is ping. I think everybody knows about that. And yeah, by doing this continuous synthetic testing and ping across multiple locations to multiple destinations, when complex changes are pushed to the network, you have a very easy way and aid to really see how is the result on your network and compare the performance before and after the change. This is an example, as you can see, we show you the grid view. I can show you also quickly on the dashboard because this might be very, very small. So we have what we call the grid view under the test tab. And in the grid view is where you can see, there you go, a grid format, the column, in the rows, there are the, the agents that perform the pings, and in the columns, there are the targets that the destination networks also that you want to test against. And then here also you can open the windows to see how good or bad is going with the configuration change. So this is definitely a remedy that you have available to make sure that you can sleep, rest well at night after a configuration change, and that you're not haunted by the ghost of outage. All right, switching to number 3, zombie internet speeds. This is something that is a nightmare that impacts especially people working from home. Of course, it happens also on on-prem network or corporate networks to have low speeds, but typically it's more frequent for people that work from home, because people working from home have a consumer internet. Not everybody maybe is getting the best package that they can get, or some other people might be located in a region where there's not great service and there are no many offerings. So you're kind of stuck with maybe one provider. And, still internet speed, problems with internet speed are very difficult to troubleshoot, especially if you're decentralized IT and this person is working remote. you need to assist the remote user to run the test. Maybe you have to do guide them over the phone, maybe do a remote desktop, and then you need to basically collect all the data points that you need to figure out if it actually is an internet speed problem, or could be also something else, of course. And so, bad internet speed has a major detrimental on many business applications, including video conferencing. So what is the remedy at hand with NetBees? Is as always the remote worker, is the endpoint that you install on people working from home. And these agents run continuous tests and diagnostic on the Wi-Fi, on the ISP, download upload speed, and also the test like with PingDNS, for instance. So by having all this kind of information, real time and historical, you have the IT, the troubleshooter really have enough information to figure out if they're dealing with the slow internet speed. And then they also have the data that the remote user can use to open a ticket with their ISP, because generally like one single speed test is not going to cut it. With NetBees, you have the historical data on the internet speed, because you can configure the agent to run speed tests every hour or maybe 2 or 3 times a day, enough to basically gather data points to know if the internet is a problem or not. And then you can run reports like this one, where you see like this one in this XY plot. Each dot is a user, and on the y-axis you have the upload, and on the x-axis is the download, and you can quickly identify the low-performing remote users and do something about it proactively. And this also generate this report. You can use not the data from one speed test, but from multiple data points that maybe you collected within a week or a month period. And so you have enough evidence to really troubleshoot and figure out if that's real the problem. And then again, open a ticket with the ISP and do something about it. So that was remedy number 3. Let's move to remedy nightmare number 4, and that's crawling Wi-Fi. This is something that is very common, especially in large campuses like university campuses, or even like any company that has many remote offices with Wi-Fi. You see always more employees being connected with the wireless, not anymore with Ethernet, especially if there are more initiatives to promote hybrid work. Well, people maybe work 2 days at home, 3 days at the office. And so Wi-Fi is really now the enabler, the normal way to connect to your corporate network. And clearly, when the Wi-Fi cannot authenticate, connect you to the network for some reason, or maybe there is a bad signal coverage, that's a big problem, right, for the IT and for the remote user. And not everyone can drive where the user are to figure out what the problem that are affecting the employees of the company. And so really crawling Wi-Fi is a big problem for today's businesses and organizations. So how does NetBees help with this nightmare? Is with the Wi-Fi sensors, and of course we also have the endpoint clients for hybrid workers. But both of them can really check the signal strength, the link quality of the wireless link, and figure out if there is good or bad coverage. This, what you see on the left, is the Wi-Fi sensor. Is a plug and play appliance. They can deploy it, anywhere in your corporate infrastructure, on an access layer, on a switch. It can be also powered with a PoE, and then it will connect with the Wi-Fi to whatever access point it can detect in the surroundings, like any other client. And then with that, you have Wi-Fi monitoring from the client perspective. So as if you have the canary in the coal mine, and you get early detection of problem, you can verify that there is enough service wherever that sensor is located. Not only, but this appliance can also do what you see on the right-hand side, which is Wi-Fi connection timing, which is a great tool to see if the overall wireless network can associate, authenticate, and give a DHCP address to the end users. And that's something that generally is a very delicate step and process in the wireless overall connectivity of remote users. And what NetBees provide not only the timing, but if something goes wrong, you can also inspect the logs collected by the Wi-Fi sensor, by the NetBees sensor, and see if there was any problem that came up during the association, authentication, or DHCP. I'm gonna briefly show you also this one on our dashboard. So I'm gonna switch back to the agents tab. And you can see here on the network agents, we have 4 units here connected to this dashboard. I'll select this one in San Jose. And you can see that this one actually is running also tests on the wire and on the Wi-Fi. And then on the wireless sub-tab, here you can see the Wi-Fi connection timing. And then here you see the wireless signal, the metrics, signal strength, link quality, and so on. Of course, this is like any other test. You have real-time data, and then you have also historical data up to 2 years if you want to save so much historical data. And then if you scroll down, you can see here the logs of this specific agent and its interaction with the kind of authentication and a DHCP server. So if anything goes wrong, you have all the data needed to figure out what the problem is, fix it, and bring back Wi-Fi users. So that was remedy number 4 to a crawling Wi-Fi nightmare. And let's go to the last one. All right, nightmare number 5, SaaS application that turn into dinosaurs. This might be a bit cryptic. It's like, what are you talking about? Why dinosaurs? Well, some browser like Chrome, for instance, when you have problem with the internet, you cannot connect for some reason, you typically see the dinosaurs telling you there is no internet connection. And actually, if you really do have internet connection, if you press the space bar, then you can play with the dinosaurs. Give it a shot if you have never seen that. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's a very common problem, a nightmare for employees, for anyone like us, of course, and also for the help desk that has to troubleshoot this problem. When user cannot connect to an application onto a SaaS, there are so many things that can go wrong, and generally the user are the last one that can really help you figure out what the problem is. And so this is where like NetBees comes, whether you're using an appliance because you're troubleshooting people working at a corporate location, or you're using the endpoint, the NetBees agent, if they work remotely, you have a way as a remedy to really monitor the digital experience of your users. And we do that by running continuous, not only like tests at the network layer, but also DNS verification, DNS checks. And as you know, DNS, it's always one of the major problems that cause SaaS application issues. And also, we also run HTTP test and measurement to really figure out basically where within the stack the application is having problems. And then not only you collect that data from each agent and potentially remote user, but also by seeing how many users are impacted by a specific problem, you understand if you're dealing with a network problem or with an application, a widespread outages like those that just happened recently with public cloud providers, for instance. So really that visibility from multiple agents, what we call distributed network monitoring, gives you a quick understanding of the scale and then the root cause of SaaS experience issues. So what you see here actually is the output of a HTTP extended timing. I'm going to show you actually on our dashboard also here, because this also I want to mention the actual custom command since I'm here. So NetBees allows you also to run your own scripts with Python or Bash, and so you really can do more than the kind of tests that are available with NetBees by default. As with script, potentially virtually you can do everything in the digital world. And so what you see here, this HTTP extended timing script breaks down the web page loading time into all the different key steps that are necessary to properly display a SaaS application or a web page on a user browser. So there is the DNS lookup time, the connect time, the SSL handshake time, the time to first byte, which is the TTFP here, and then the total loading time. Of course, you can even go beyond this. And if you want to run HTTP transaction, for example, you can use the custom command feature by NetBees to do that. All right. And I think that was the fifth nightmare and the associated remedy. And I think we can, kind of a closing remark before we open to the Q&A. First of all, as a key takeaways, I would say something like after this webinar you bring with you is that really visibility is very important to really as a better defense against network nightmares. Without data, really you're struggling with figuring out what the problem is, and a lot of time and resources are spent collecting that data. So one goal of NetBees is clearly like automating and scaling that collection process of data. Second is continuous monitoring prevents surprise outages, because by running continuous tests, as soon as something goes wrong, you can detect it and be alerted. So it's not just troubleshooting, it's also like a proactive detection. And then, yes, NetBees keeps your network safe from spooky surprises. This may sound generic, but I hope that with these slides, we really make our point. And then last few words before Q&A, sorry again, is about our community. You can interact with other NetBees users by going to community.netbees.net. Feel free to share their horror stories and challenge us with remedies that NetBees could have for your network horror stories. And yeah, consult our blog on top of the community. We have a lot of knowledge base and examples and use cases that we like to share, and we write every 2 weeks. And if you want to try NetBees last, just go on our website, netbees.net. The top right button, you can request a free trial and test it for 2 weeks. All right. And now Q&A.
Okay, looks like we have 2 questions. The first one, I can read the entire thing and then we can answer it in parts. Is the synthetic Teams call that is being made, I think this is from the first nightmare, the synthetic Teams call that is being made talking to another Teams endpoint or a NetBees endpoint, and are they registering as Teams endpoints? If so, can they call my Teams endpoint, or can I call them directly?
All right. So put simply, the MOS estimate and jitter estimate are based on the network performance condition and not on the kind of application layer. Generally, that's data available already in Teams. So it's mostly based on the network layer synthetic tests that we run to figure out if basically the network is facilitating good call quality or not. All right, next question.
Next question is, can you also authenticate and log in to SaaS platforms?
Yes, with the so we have built-in simple authentication and NTLM authentication, and now with the custom command, you can also basically run and execute scripts to authenticate with the SaaS application. So that would be basically with custom command,
which is our newest feature.
Yes.
And if you'd like to know, our last webinar was about custom command. And if you want to see that live or have any questions about it, we could also show you that on a demo as well. I think those are all of the questions for right now. If you think of any questions after the webinar that you wish you could have asked, feel free to use our chat feature on our website, bottom right of netbees.net. We can answer any questions there, or you can email us at sales@netbees.net and we can answer questions that way as well. But otherwise, I think that's it for now. Happy Halloween to all of you that celebrate or will be walking around with your children tomorrow. Good luck. And thanks for coming to our webinar.
Thanks for joining. Bye.